Hi, I'm Larry Hicks, and I have to confess I've had a long-term love affair with a wonderful little eccentric character named Miss Moucher in David Copperfield. This cosmetologist by trade begins in chapter 22 as a volatile, slippery character, continues in chapter 32 as a more reflective and wise instructor, but ends in chapter 61 as a heroine. Let's listen in on this minor literary character, but very bright and intriguing woman, beginning with her first appearance before Copperfield as a surprise guest of Steerforth in chapter 22, narrated by Copperfield. "I beg your pardon, sir. Miss Moucher is down here," spoke Littimer. "Who?" cried Steerforth, much astonished. "Miss Moucher, sir." "Do you know the giantess, Copperfield, in question?" I was obliged to confess I felt ashamed that Miss Moucher and I were wholly unacquainted. "Then you shall know her," said Steerforth, "for she is one of the 7 wonders of the world." Speaking to Littimer, "When Miss Moucher comes, show her in." When the door opened and Littimer, with his habitual serenity, quite undisturbed, announced, "Miss Moucher," to my infinite astonishment, there came waddling around the sofa, which stood between me and it, a pursy dwarf of about 40 or 45, with a very large head and face, a pair of roguish gray eyes, and such extremely little arms that to enable herself to lay a finger archly against her snub nose, as she argued Steerforth, she was obliged to meet the finger halfway and lay her nose against it. Her chin, which is called a double chin, was so fat that it entirely swallowed up the strings of her bonnet, bow, and all. Throat, she had none. Waist, she had none. Legs, she had none worth mentioning, and after ogling Steerforth for a few moments, she broke into a torrent of words. "What, my Fowler?" She pleasantly began, shaking her head at him. "You're there, are you? Oh, you naughty boy, fie for shame. What do you do so far away from home? Up to mischief, I'm bound. Oh, you're a downy fellow, Steerforth. So you are. And I'm another, ain't I? Ha, ha, ha. But go along, you dog, do, and don't be impudent. But I give you my word and honor. I was at Lady Mither's last week. Now, there's a woman." "What were you doing for Lady Mither's?" asked Steerforth. "That's telling, my blessed infant. Never you mind. You like to know whether I stop her hair from falling off, or dye it, or touch her complexion, or improve her eyebrows. Wouldn't you? And so you shall, my darling, when I tell you." She had by this time drawn the chair to her side and was busily engaged in producing from the bag a number of small bottles, sponges, combs, brushes, bits of flannel, little pairs of curling irons, and other instruments, which she tumbled in a heap upon the chair. From this employment she suddenly desisted, and said to Steerforth, much to my confusion, "Who's your friend?" "Mr. Copperfield," said Steerforth, "and he wants to know you." "Well, then he shall." Miss Moucher, waddling up to me, bag in hand, and laughing on me as she came, face like a peach, standing on tiptoe to pinch my cheek as I sat, cried tempting, "I'm very fond of peaches." Happy to make your acquaintance, Mr. Copperfield, I'm sure. I said that I congratulated myself on having the honor to make hers, and that the happiness was mutual. Oh, my goodness, how polite we are, exclaimed Miss Moucher, making a preposterous attempt to cover her large face with her morsel of a hand. What a world of gammon and spinach it is, though, ain't it? This was addressed confidentially to both of us, as the morsel of a hand came away from the face and buried itself arm in arm in the bag again. Look here, taking something out of the bag. Scraps of the Russian prince's nails. Prince Alphabet. Turned topsy-turvy, I call him, for his name's got all the letters in it. Higgledy-piggledy. The prince's nails do more for me in private families of the genteel sort than all my talents put together. I always carry them about. They're the best introduction. If Miss Moucher cuts the prince's nails, she must be all right. I give them away to young ladies. They put them in albums, I believe. Ha ha ha, upon my life. The whole social system, as the men call it when they make speeches in Parliament, is a system of prince's nails. Miss Moucher next appears in chapter 32. This brazen little lady is still very forward and strong, but is quite reflective, having realized that she has been used by Steerforth, and not in a good way. Now the narrator, upon hearing a tap at the door, opened it, and in amazement saw nothing but a great umbrella that appeared to be walking all by itself. But underneath the umbrella was Miss Moucher. Her volatile expression was now missing, having been replaced by a very earnest look. I'm surprised, Copperfield began, to see you so distressed and serious. Perhaps I ought not to be at all surprised to see you as you are now. I know so little of you. I said this without consideration, what I thought. What can I do? Returned the little woman, standing up and holding out her arms to show herself. See, what I am, my father was, and my sister is, and my brother is. I have worked for sister and brother these many years, hard, Mr. Copperfield, all day. I must live. I do no harm. If there are people so unreflecting or so cruel as to make jest of me, what is left for me to do but to make jest of myself, them, and everything? If I do so for the time, whose fault is that? Mine? I am thankful for myself, at any rate, that I can find my tiny way through the world without being beholden to anyone, that in return for all that is thrown at me, in folly or vanity, as I go along, I can throw bubbles back. If I don't brood over all I want, it is the better for me, and not the worse for anyone. If I am a plaything for you giants, my one request is, be gentle with me. Miss Moucher does not appear again in the book, but we hear about her in chapter 61, where a dwarf is spoken of as a heroine who not only discovered the now criminal Litimer trying to escape to America in the disguise of flaxen wig and whiskers, but who also captured him. The narrator concludes, when the little woman, being in Southampton, met Litimer walking across the street, picked him out with her sharp eye in a moment, ran betwixt his legs to upset him, and held on to him like grim death, And at the trial, she is said to have given her evidence against Litimer in the gamest way and was highly complimented by the bench and cheered right home to her lodgings. She said in court that she'd have took him single-handed on what she knew concerning him, even if he had been Samson himself. And it's my belief she would. Thank you for your inspiration, Miss Moucher. In thinking why I chose to read about Miss Moucher on my video for Dickens-to-Go, I reflect back to a friend of mine named Ronnie Smallwood. Ronnie Smallwood was a junior when I was a senior in high school. Ronnie was small, as his name implies. Actually, his whole family was very small. But small did not define Ronnie. He was smart and witty and winsome and as steady as a rock as a friend. When I first read David Copperfield, I think Miss Moucher reminded me of the Smallwood family of my youth. Scholars tell us that Dickens created Miss Moucher from a family chiropodist named Jane Seymour Hill. And Miss Hill was not too impressed with Dickens' early portrayal of herself in the person of Miss Moucher. But as Miss Moucher's character developed into a heroine, I'm sure Miss Hill would not have minded if Dickens had added her Christian name to Miss Moucher. Jane Moucher. Well, maybe a little eccentric. Ain't I volatile, as she would say? But Miss Moucher is always smart, witty, and even very brave. And I like her. So I guess that's why I picked Miss Moucher.